I'm Joel Wood.
Blaire Barlettt.
And Joel Kopperud.
I will say in my nearly 40 years in Washington, D.C., working in and around Capitol Hill, these are the most consequential weeks that I can ever remember from a legislative standpoint, and here we are. Now it's ILF time at the conclusion of an incredible week that is going to lead to even more conversations. So Democrats are attempting to squeeze on the narrowest, slimmest, zero margin for error, all their lofty goals into one big package of reconciliation. Now that we are seeing the bipartisan infrastructure, hard infrastructure legislation that appears to be moving toward a conclusion. How are your Democrats feeling these days, Joel?
I've been cautioned many times over the past several weeks, do not bet against Pelosi. And I think we are seeing that happen this week, considering this narrow margin that she has. We know she's decoupled the reconciliation package from the hard infrastructure package. We'll see those negotiations move forward. They're trying to pre-conference it with the White House and with Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema to get something that can get through the Senate. And we'll see what that looks like. I mean, we know what's been on the table in terms of pay-fors, which we view as a big threat. There's a lot of impacting the benefits business in this. But that's what we know, and the big threat is what we don't know about what is actually going to make it into the final package. But don't bet against Pelosi.
And what are you anticipating? Where's the big picture number going to be on soft infrastructure? Is it going to be $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion? Will a progressive caucus eat it when they present the dead cat to them that they're not going to get $3.5 trillion? What?
I think realistically you can't go over $1 trillion. I don't know how you can do that and get with these slim of margins.
That's not what I'm hearing from even some of the Republicans. But
even less.
I'm hearing likely two to $2.5 trillion.
Well, that's a lot of money. All right, so here are our priorities. First of all, it depends from a taxation standpoint for your own firm how you're structured. If you're structured as a pass-through, very much on the cusp, live negotiations about whether or not pass-through is the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, whether those benefits are going to continue and to what extent they may be scaled back. If you're structured, obviously, as a corporation, I think most everybody believes that rate's going to wind up at 25%. That's the Joe Manchin sort of level. If you have international business, you've got a lot on the line with respect to the GILTI provisions for international taxation for minimum taxes in every jurisdiction. And we've even heard from firms that put company stock in IRAs, and there are provisions that would socket to large IRAs. So there's a lot of individual firm considerations, and then there's the big picture consideration for everybody in our space with respect to M&A on what that capital gains tax rate is going to look like. What do you hear?
We're seeing movement within the caucus, I think, to avoid any tinkering on international taxes. The big question is, what's the number that they need to ultimately get to, right? What we saw the House consider these past couple of weeks, they were striving to raise $3.5 trillion. That's not going to be the number that reaches the president's desk.
But with respect to capital gains, the Biden administration proposed essentially doubling the capital gains rate. Under the Ways and Means construct right now, we're up to 26.5. 25%. So I think hopefully that's the ceiling, not the floor.
I think that's right.
And on the benefit side, tons of stuff there as well, for not only for your benefits business, but for your clients as well. One of the big pay-fors in any package is the anticipated $600-700 billion worth of purported savings from Part D Medicare negotiating with drug companies. That's all great as long as those negotiated prices are available to private industry. Right now, the legislation says it, but there's a kink in this, and that might not survive a challenge in front of the Senate parliamentarian because it doesn't fit into reconciliation rules. This would screw us because that is yet another massive cost shift to private employers as a result of that.
That's right. And this is something that we're working closely with the Benefits Council, American Benefits Council, all the employer groups to make sure that everyone fully understands how the commercial markets would be impacted, because the way they wrote the legislation, commercial markets would also benefit from the cheaper drug prices. So we want to make sure that they're aware of their unintended consequences.
The other big ticket item in this is the expansion, more of a permanent, a 10-year expansion of the subsidies available in the ACA exchanges. Would you reflect quickly, Blaire, on the continuing resolution and some of our particular issues there?
So there are a lot of numbers going around, a lot of funding going around, and that's what makes all of this very tricky. So we just had a government funding, which included a reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, and then we have this reconciliation package. We're moving forward on transportation, and we have a debt ceiling. So there are trillions of dollars that are being talked about right now. And so as we pass more bills, that momentum to keep going forward slows down. So I'm just glad that we did government funding, and we got that done. Flood, which included reauthorizing the National Flood Insurance Program, which cannot seem to get uncoupled from a funding bill, but it's something that needs to get done.
Throughout these weeks, we are seeing a lot of members of Congress having reached a $2 million goal and going beyond it in our political action committee. We are so grateful for that opportunity to us to be engaged with the policymakers on this. This is a hell of a time. Thank you all, and stay tuned.
Thank you.